Hello, thank you again for watching. This is the second of 5 videos. This one will be explaining how I created the second of the generative music experiments. This one is called Expanding Universe. Okay, so the first thing to pay attention to with this one is that I use this Imbaphones sound here as my main melody sound. With the amplitude, I didn't do anything with the attack. I wanted it to have a quick attack, but I wanted it to have a very long sustain and release so that it has a kind of floating quality. That is being controlled by this instance of this sequencer or this compulsion sequencer arpeggiator. The way that it works is you have a 5-note melody, just like this. Each one of these notes, or each one of these sequences has a certain length or a certain loop length, which you can see here. So the first sequencer is the quickest, it loops the quickest, and then the next one, or rather sequencer 5, the next note is the next, and so forth and so on. And so what ends up happening is that each note with each repetition, as it goes and loops through over and over and over, each note becomes further and further away from each other. So that's why I called this the expanding universe, is because I had this idea that this would sort of be Earth, or our solar system, or our Milky Way, and then just like the expanding universe, each other solar system or planet or galaxy would become further and further away from each other over time. So I'll play that now and you'll get a sense of what I mean. So that's the original melody. All the notes are quite close together. You might have noticed that it paused here for a while. It also pauses here for a while as well. The reason why is because I wanted to create more time in between each loop. It also had some other benefits as well, which I'll explain later. So you may have already begun to notice that these notes are getting further and further away from each other. Okay, now, one of the other reasons why I decided to pause on this moment is because I wanted to link this particular sequencer, sequence 15, I wanted to link this one to another synth. So when this note sounds, another synthesizer will also be triggered at the same time. And so if you flip the rack around, you can see that I've connected sequencer 15 up to, it's going into this splitter, and then that splitter is then being sent off to this device here, which is this slow thinking device, which is another synthesizer. So if we unmute that now, when it hits the high note, you'll hear this slow thinking as well. It's actually hitting the same note because one is just triggering the other. Okay, you might have also noticed that down here, I also have this other thing which is just here. And basically what this is doing is this is working as an arpeggiator. So essentially what's happening here is that this information here is, think of this as kind of like the master. This master is sending off information through this CV player tap. It's sending off information to this CV player tap, which is in turn triggering this as the sort of slave. So to cut a corner, essentially, this sequencer is acting as the master, and through a series of lots of connections, this instance of compulsion, not as a sequencer but as an arpeggiator, is basically acting as the slave. And so the way that this works is that you have to have this turned on to hold, and then you also need to turn it off mute, and then after that it should start working. And I've only got one effect set up on this one. That's the, oh sorry, I have two. I have this Orion's Lace synthesizer, not effect, sorry, synthesizer, and then I also have this Signs in Space synthesizer. So you can see that this has actually started running now, because it's actually running based off this one here. It's actually being triggered, I believe, by F sharp 3. So it's being triggered by this note here, by the 12th sequencer. So this is what that sounds like. We can't hear it much yet. Let's just turn them both on. There you go. Now you can see that different sequences are going to different devices. So the Orion's synthesizer is going to sequencer 1, and the Signs in Space synthesizer is going to sequencer 2, or rather the other way around. And so what's happening is they're also running at different, I think they're running at the same rate as each other. Yes, they are. They're running at the same rate, but the difference is that they're holding at different times. So as you can see from sequencer 1, it's holding on these two instances at the very beginning and at the very end, and it repeats for this amount of time. And then the sequencer 2 is actually holding 3 times, so it's also holding in the middle as well, and it repeats for a much longer period of time except for the middle one. So all that means is that they don't always trigger at the exact same time. You'll notice this Signs in Space is triggering now, but soon this other Orion's Lace will be triggering. So now the Orion's Lace is triggering. So as you can hear now, all of the sounds are extremely far away from each other, and they're actually starting to overlap over the top of each other. That's not exactly like the expanding universe, but I think it's the best I could do. So, what's happening in terms of the visualizer? Just like the first one, you have 4 here, which are representing the overall audio, not individual sounds. And then you have this one here, obviously representing the imbophone sound. And then you've got these 2 sounds representing the 2 synthesizers. As in the by which I meant the 2 synthesizers, sorry. I meant the Orion's Lace synthesizer and the Signs in Space synthesizer. I think as a limitation, I wasn't able to get the slow thinking to be on its own individual one as well, just because it was connecting directly to this device. Okay, and that's it from that video. I hope that helps explain a little bit about what's going on. Thank you for watching.